Welcome to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. But before we head over to the arena, I want to give a big thank you to our sponsors of the show, Group Therapy Bike Tours and Slim Chickens. We'll start with Group Therapy. They are all in on the Nebraska basketball wave. Head over to grouptherapybiketours.com and book your ride today for all of your pregame, post-game, whenever game, birthday party, wedding, family reunion, corporate event. They have a 15-person trolley ride, a 6-person mini bike for whatever event you want to celebrate. And like I said, it is full force in Nebraska. If you've gone to a Nebraska game, I'm sure you've seen the trolleys riding around the Haymarket and downtown Lincoln. If you go over to grouptherapybiketours.com and use the promo code NebraskaBall, you will save 15% on your first ride. So make sure you head on over there and support our great sponsor. It's a ton of fun. I've been on it several times. Could not recommend it enough. Now over to our other sponsors, Slim Chickens. Bill Hooks and his wife Stacy are diehard Nebraska fans, and they couldn't wait to jump on the Nebraska basketball train. Locally owned Slim Chickens has 2 locations, 84th and Old Cheney and 16th and Pine Lake. Slim Chickens features a variety of options with fried and grilled chicken tenders, wings, salads, wraps, sandwiches, chicken and waffles, and southern sides. What makes Slim's different? Well, they have over 17 different dipping sauces for guests to choose their favorite. Slim Chickens is available for dine-in, drive-thru, or delivery via their online ordering. Check out Slim Chickens app and start earning rewards today. Slim Chickens is always a favorite for large gatherings and tailgate parties, especially Nebraska basketball tailgate parties, and let them do the cooking for you. Slim Chickens is moving forward, and they are expanding to the north side of Lincoln soon, so keep an eye out for that. Stop into your local Slim Chickens restaurant today for some southern hospitality and see their newly remodeled locations. Again, thanks to all our sponsors. Now let's head over to the arena and take you courtside with me, Rob and Washut. Welcome back to another edition of Courtside with Rob and Washut. Here I am at Jersey Mike's Arena, Rutgers Athletic Center, whatever you want to call it, Piscataway, New Jersey, following Nebraska's 80-68 win over Rutgers. It was a game that kind of went back and forth early on, but even though, Nebraska only led by like 4 points through the better part of the first half, it felt like this was a game that they were in full control of. And for me, that starts with the way that the Huskers answered the call with their physicality. You go back to that Illinois game, that was probably the most concerning part of that defeat. I mean, obviously Illinois is really good, and they played some of their best basketball to win that game. But the way that the Illini kind of bullied the Huskers, especially defensively, that took them completely out of their flow offensively, pretty much eliminated Price Stanford from the offense, eliminated the paint from Nebraska's offense. That was a real concern going into this game because of, while all the shortcomings Rutgers has, just from a talent perspective, they're still a Steve Pikiell team, and they're still big and physical and strong. And the thought was they were going to look at that Illinois film and say, hey, we're going to do the same thing. We're going to beat Nebraska up. We're going to see what the officials are going to let us get away with, and we're going to make them have to match the fight, which they did not do against Illinois. And in a game that was, Nebraska came in as heavy favorites, but this was critical for the Huskers. They had to win this one just to get some momentum back on their sides. I mean, it's dubbed a get-right game for a reason, and that kind of defined what this one was all about. So it wasn't just a matter of kind of bouncing back after 2 straight losses. That this was an opportunity they couldn't let slip through their fingers. And what impressed me the most was how assertive and intentional Nebraska was to answering that call. And so it started hammering the ball inside, getting the ball to Rink early, often throughout the game. He ended up shooting the ball 20 times, and I believe I saw, courtesy of Husker Hoop Central, that was the most shot attempts Rink has had in his 5-year college career, which is pretty incredible. And so, but only 4 of those 20 shots were threes. And so while Rink was only 1 of 4 from 3-point range, he made his first, missed his next 3. He didn't force the issue. The efficiency still remains, or leaves some to be desired with his perimeter shooting. But he attacked the basket. He got back to that kind of baby jump hook that Rutgers had no answer for. There was a stretch No, so obviously he had 13 points in the first half, really hammered the ball inside early, but Nebraska goes up by 20 in the second half and kind of, maybe took their foot off the gas a little bit, and Rutgers started to chip away a little bit. They turned that 20-point deficit, cut it all the way down to 13, and it felt like, oh no, well, could they make this interesting? Rink comes up and scores 6 straight jump hooks. 6 straight, like, big jump hooks where he's just taking the ball one-on-one and goes and makes a play. And that is the difference for Nebraska. When their all Big Ten center plays like an all Big Ten center and makes those types of shots and those types of moments, that's the difference between squeaking out a win and staying in control, keeping a pesky Rutgers team at arm's length when your best players are making the best plays at the most critical moments. And so Rink was phenomenal today. 11 of 20 from the field, 3 of 4 from the free throw line, 8 rebounds. To his 26 points were his most since the season high 31 he had against Winthrop, and tied for the second most points he scored in a game this season as a whole. So in a setting where Nebraska needed to get back on track, where Rink needed to get back on track, him playing the way that he did was probably the best thing you could have seen outside of Nebraska winning the game. So that was certainly encouraging. And then plus 16 over his 32 minutes of work, team high, game high, plus 16. It wasn't just the scoring. It was the way that Nebraska was in full control for all 32 minutes that Rink was on the floor. And so he was the star of the show. But again, I look at the entire 8-man rotation, I guess 7-man rotation Nebraska used in this game. Every player made a significant impact. Even, a guy like Braden Frager, he struggled shooting today. He just didn't quite have it after going 6 of 12 from 3 against Illinois. He was 0 for 5 today, 2 of 10 from the field. But you saw him kind of start to get back to that attack mode, off the dribble, getting to the rim. Both of his makes came taking the ball, putting his head down, and getting to the rack. And that, I think, that's what he needs to do. The three-point shooting is great, but you don't need him shooting 12 threes in a game. What you need is the type of player he was at Ohio State or at Indiana, where he's, being that physical, athletic presence, which Nebraska doesn't have a lot of, and getting to the rack, drawing contact, finishing at the rim, getting to the free throw line, and just being kind of that X factor physically that he's been for the better part of this season. So it was in small doses, and he needs to get back on track with his shot overall. But you saw him, especially coming off that ankle injury, get a little bit more back into that attack mode that has made him so good this year. But again, so even Braden, I thought, had his moments. Sam Hoiberg was phenomenal once again. 13 points. He was 3 of 4 from three-point range. Hit some big-time threes to help Nebraska kind of break things open. 7 rebounds, 5 assists, 4 steals, only 2 turnovers. Over his 34-plus minutes of work, he was plus 12 on the game. Sam Hoiberg has been just one of the most efficient joys to watch this year. People talk about him after every game, and deservingly so. There's a reason they call him the best glue guy in all of college basketball. And I know Seth Davis, the analyst, put out a list of asking for votes about who college basketball's best glue guys are this season. And if Sam Hoiberg doesn't make that list, it's an atrocity, because games like this show how critical everything that he does is to Nebraska's success. But I can't talk about this game without praising Jamarcus Lawrence, the Plainfield, New Jersey native, which is about a 20-minute drive from Piscataway, had a crew of family, friends, former teammates, and all that good stuff show up at the rack. And keep in mind, this was a game where tickets weren't cheap. I think he was able to round up about 25 tickets, but he said that there was as many as 50 people that wanted to come to this game to support him. And because of the weird anime card thing that was going on today, tickets were not cheap. So he still had quite the crew right behind Nebraska's bench cheering him on. And, this is a game, I think he said this was his 7th time playing at the rack over the course of his high school and now college career. And from the point where he won a state championship here with Roselle Catholic, when he was playing with, I guess I don't know if he won it with C.J. Wilcher. I think that was the next year, but with C.J.'s brother, Simeon. Anyway, that it hadn't been a great place for him. I think there's kind of one of those games where he tried too hard. You know, he was doing too much to try to put on a show for his friends and family. And while that may have been the case again today, I thought that he was in full control of himself throughout and looked excellent just running the offense. He had 12 points, but he also matched his career high with 7 assists in this game. And, you know, again, like Sam, he took excellent care of the basketball, only 1 turnover. So 7 assists to 1 turnover, 12 points. He was 4-4 from the free throw line and also drew a team high 5 fouls that helped Nebraska actually compete and win at the free throw line for the first time in a long time after being dominated in that area over the last 2 losses. So shout out Jamarcus Lawrence, putting on a show in what could be his final game at the rack. He's got a lot of history here, a lot of connections, and it was awesome to see him kind of go out with a bang the way that he did. But then you can just go on and on about the guys that played, you know, impactful minutes in this game. But I thought overall just this game was defined by Nebraska's resilience. And I thought it was telling that going into this week after that Illinois game, it was a 5-day break, a desperately needed kind of time off window where Nebraska had a chance to recover, get their legs back under them, you know, with the illness, the injury that they were dealing with. But Rink Master said that the coaches, this wasn't some vacation week. Like, they got after him. He said that the scout team was instructed to be as physical as possible, especially defensively and on the glass, to prepare Nebraska for yet another physical test that, you know, they didn't respond too well against Illinois, that they needed to respond to better against Rutgers. So while they did have some time off to recover, it was not just some, you know, cakewalk of a 5-day break. They got after it in practice, and they had some extremely tough, battle-filled drills and scrimmages in practice that I think helped kind of set the tone mentally and physically for Nebraska to come into this game with the right approach in both aspects. So an impressive performance, one that Nebraska was supposed to do, one that they took care of business and did, and now it sets up another massive home game on Tuesday night. Purdue comes to town. They squeaked out a win against Oregon today, and so when it comes to Nebraska staying in the race for the Big Ten regular season championship, for NCAA tournament seeding, for Big Ten tournament seeding, massive game, massive opportunity for the Huskers in their lone game against the Boilermakers this regular season. So they did what they were supposed to do, but now they got to turn the page, as always, and quickly move on to the next big test that awaits them on Tuesday night. I'll sign off for right now. Thanks for listening. Shout out again to my sponsors, Group Therapy Bike Tours, Slim Chickens. Let's have ourselves a weekend. Good start here in Piscataway. Wish me luck on my way home, and I'll see you guys on Tuesday.